This is the Freedom Fighters Podcast, keeping a watchful eye on the news that matters.
Good evening. This is Chuck and Joe and the Freedom Fighters Podcast. Glad to be back today, everyone. This is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026, and today we're going to be discussing something I've brought to America that is not being talked about. I don't believe that you're going to hear it on the regular stations. So we at the Freedom Fighters are going to discuss it. We are now, if you can believe this, finally, after 10 years, bringing up Rico charges. And this is with involvement and government cover-ups. Some very famous people. So stick with me in just a moment. We're going to discuss this, and I'm going to let you in on what is going on in America. If you would, though, before we get started, could you smack that like and subscribe button down at the bottom? Your comments are welcomed and encouraged, and they just put them below in the comment section. I try to answer everyone. It's not always possible, but I try to. Thank you for anything that you say. I welcome any comments. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. All right, everyone, let's get started. Today we're talking about RICO charges against Obama, the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation, and several other people. Could be, and including maybe the Bushes. Can you believe that one? Okay, so back about 5 years, 3 months ago or so, it's funny, before we had the breakout of COVID, on air, President Obama came on and told the world that we would have an airborne disease, most probably in the next many years. Who knew COVID was going to show up, right? He said that we would need to see it, respond quickly, further it along and take care of it. Questions started rolling then. How on earth did Obama know all this? Well, that's a question that we're going to hope that the RICO courts can answer, along with where, who, and how money from the Democrat Party was passed on almost like a mob. They have become an illegal gang in the United States, and the RICO charges are going to prove that. I have a little bit together that I've gathered for you folks that isn't on the main news. You are welcome to fact check me, please. I welcome you to do that. Where I get my information will be held also below. Just look that up and you can see, and you can go and listen to the full lectures, podcasts, newscast that you'd like to hear more full, that I'm not maybe going to go into in depth today. Let's start with the CIA. In case you believe that the CIA is a good agency, you better believe again. Folks, since after World War II, we have had problems with the Central Intelligence Agency. They've covered up the Kennedy assassinations, alien probabilities of being on this earth, such in Roswell, other examples, killed people for absolutely no reason, and have been involved in some of the worst things that has happened to America, i.e. 9/11. Now, has that been proven? No. But does everything lead there? Absolutely. If you follow the chain of command and follow the money, things get really, really messed up, including the whole 9/11 consequence. What I didn't know, and what I've learned by listening and reading, is that the CIA actually has a habit of, get a load of this is going to blow your mind, they do profiles of our presidents. And when I say profiles, I mean profiles that they see how that they can use them. In other words, they want presidents that come in that have no idea how the country is really ran, who really runs it, so to speak, and about foreign policy especially, and the involvement of the American government, say CIA, and who comes in next in different countries, etc. Our CIA is extremely crooked. I'm calling you out, CIA. I don't care if I'm the only one in America that sees it, which I know I'm not. We need to boot you and start all over Everyone always talks about the Federal Bureau of Investigation being bad. Well, if you want to know where everything truly starts and ends, you need to look at the CIA. Now on to Obama with the CIA, and this is where they come in. They, along with other people, started grooming President Obama when he was very, very young. You can thank CIA Director George Bush for that. He was friends with, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this later, the stepdad of Barack Obama, aka aka Barry, and things just kind of rolled from there. What I am going to tell you is what I read, what I heard, and where I got this from was a very great podcast. I'm going to give him absolutely credit, and I fact checked a lot of this already. No, not a lot of it. I fact checked it all, to be honest. But it was Brian Maxwell's podcast, Real Politics Podcast is what it's called. Brian Maxwell, Real Politics Podcast. And I encourage everyone to go there tonight after I finish this and listen to more in depth. The people talk about Barack Obama and the involvement with Hillary Clinton in the Russia collusion and in his involvement in the 2020 election and the involvement of the Democratic Party in Rico charges that are coming up due to all the scamming, all the taking of Americans' tax money and any kind of money from grants, you name it, that were given to the Democratic Party and used for nefarious projects. So, to get on with it, they liked Barack Obama, and he actually went to high school, I read, in Hawaii. And he went to a very, very expensive high school, one of the most prestigious high schools in the country. He always claims to have been poor and brought up poor. That is not true at all. He was very wealthy. His parents were very wealthy, and he was given every privilege that you can think of. Now, he was not a U.S. citizen. President Trump fought that. It's been proven. He is not, and I repeat, not an American citizen. And if at the end of this you didn't get enough information, please go to Brian's podcast and hear from John Solomon himself how that worked. Okay, so I'm going to read you a couple of things here. Okay, Barack Obama worked for the Saudi intelligence service, the CIA, and he was being developed as a political asset in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, it turns out the CIA, the FBI, no one knew in the intelligence agency at first who he was. They just knew someone was being groomed in Chicago. Well, they found out that this person, and when I say groomed, I mean groomed to take over the U.S., which you're going to hear in a minute, and that he was living in Chicago, that he was not a U.S. citizen, but it was said that he was a student. He had a student visa, and he was a national from another country. At first, that's all they knew. As things moved on, in 2008, they found out that he was indeed an asset and that it was Barack Obama. Everyone in the intelligence structure found out that it was Obama because and he became president of the United States. One of his code names was Renegade. And his name, the name of this person, Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro. I can't pronounce it very good, so forgive me, Soetoro. His given name was Barry. He was adopted by another man, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second. But he needed a different name for political cover. When he ran for president, they changed it to Barack Obama, and the deep state just felt like it was a culmination of so many years, 40 to 50 years of everything they had put together, and it was all into Barack Obama. And their mission, his mission, was to destroy the United States of America from within, one institution at a time. Now, folks, that came from the FBI. The FBI, who is investigating Barry, aka Obama, and Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and so many more right now. The one thing that he did work on very hard when he was here, or when he was president, was one, to defund the military. We remember him defunding the military. The United States went down to less than half of military, and he also decreased pay. It was an awful time in the United States if you lived through it and remember it. For you, those of you who never paid attention or were too young at the time, President Obama made it clear that the United States of America was not going to have any kind of a, let's say, great military. He didn't want it. He wanted us to be open to be destroyed. That was their whole game. Okay, the whole game. And Barry was, from a young age, made to fit what they wanted, which was president, and to, like I said, destroy the U.S. from inside. And he started doing it very well, didn't he? He made our military attack other allies. No, I'm saying other allies. He made our military overseas. American people didn't know it. Made them attack allies and attack our allies, and told the American people that he was defending us. He supplied and helped our enemies. That's exactly how he created ISIS. That's right, I said it. Barack Obama created ISIS. He would say publicly that we were bombing our enemies, but we were really bombing the enemies of ISIS. Okay? And he said that what they would do is take equipment overseas. He was doing lots of other things with money laundering, but he would take great parts of equipment, stuff that was supposed to be safeguarded by the United States and considered some of it to be classified. He would take those and put those into warehouses overseas, all kinds of it. And then he would leave it there, just leave it there. The U.S. didn't even use it. And ISIS would come in then and take it. Well, he had military questioning him, all the way from big people to lower people. And he said, "You do not question my orders. You do what you are told." The leader of the free world yelled back at the leaders of the military and basically told them to go to hell. It was to sit there. And they knew what was going on, but were not allowed to talk about it. Then we all found out by luck that Bush and Obama were friends. If you have not seen that, look back. You know, there were presidents' funerals that they've attended on TV, several inaugurations, etc. Watch on TV the relationship between the Bushes and the Obamas. Okay? I'm not saying that you can't have friends that are political rivals, but you can't have friends of, other denominations of Christianity or, of other religions, color, whatever. What I am saying is you can absolutely see how close President Bush was and is to the Obamas, but yet, and the Clintons, let's add the Clintons in there. Don't forget the Clintons, but not Trump ever, which I find odd because on TV, you would think that the Republicans would sit with Republicans, right? And at least back Republicans, Democrats with Democrats, but no, that's not changed. Bush has never liked Trump. And you know why? Bush is part of this. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on that in just a moment. But right now, I want to kind of fill you in about Barry a little more. And when I say Barry, Obama did a lifetime of things with the Bushes. Okay. And that's all I can really say there, other than he met and helped George Bush Sr., who was head of the CIA. And when I say he, that would be Barry's stepdad. Okay. Barry's stepdad's name was Lolo Soetoro. Okay. Lolo Soetoro. I'm so terrible at pronouncing this, folks. These names are just beyond me, but he was also known as Mangunhero Mangunquajero of Indonesia. He was the stepfather of Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States. Okay. And that is in Wikipedia if you'd like to look that up. He was the president, and I am just going to call him Lolo. Lolo was the president. He was the vice president of Standard Oil. He was very good friends with George W. Bush's father, George Bush. And at the time, George Bush was head of the CIA. When he went into the CIA, he needed people that he could manipulate and help him to get the right people into power overseas so that we could bring down the United States. Bush Sr. worked with Lolo for many, many years. In fact, there are pictures of the Bushes, and I think it's George W. Bush, if I remember right, with Obama when he was younger. And you can see that there again on the podcast for Brian Maxwell. Okay, so the rest of this I'm going to kind of really go through fast. His father was born on January 2nd, 1935 in Indonesia. He died on March 2nd, 1987 in Indonesia. That's pretty much all we know about him, but he very much influenced Barack Obama's life. He was very wealthy, and he sent Barack Obama to the best schools. Like I said, he went to high school in Hawaii and helped him to get into the CIA to accomplish the things that the deep state wanted. Okay. George Bush, Judge Joe Brown has the best answers to this. He knew them. George Bush pulled off hits with Soetoro, with Lolo. Now, you can believe that or not, but it's the truth. Judge Joe Brown has no reason to lie, and he gave multiple counts on how that happened. I encourage you to go also to that podcast to hear that story. It would take me a year to write all that out, so I just wanted to kind of throw that in for you so you knew what was going on and how that all kind of tied together. In addition, Barack's grandma was the person that the CIA sent the money to in the South Pacific so that they could then pull off the hits. Okay, so you have the CIA, head of the CIA, George Bush, sending money to Barack Obama's stepfather, and then the grandmother would get the money. It would go to Lolo, and then Lolo would carry out hits for the CIA. Now, George Brennan, I can't stand this man. I cannot say this enough. He needs to be put out of his misery. He needs to be marked as a traitor and be hung for treason. Okay? John Brennan created, and he was head of the CIA, a who do you want to kill list. Now, folks, I'm not kidding. They have a who do you want to kill list when Obama was in. And they did this every week. They would get together. They would make out a kill list of whom they needed to kill, whoever in the United States or overseas, to get what they needed done. They'd make this list, hand out the papers, give them to the agents that he wanted, and they'd go and handle it. Okay. Sometimes the agents would pass it off to people like Lolo. I'm sure that at that point when Obama was in Lolo was dead by then, but whoever was underneath him or whoever they were working for at that time, they would pass that off to them overseas and not get their hands dirty. But in a lot of things, the CIA actually committed these atrocities themselves. Okay. This kill list, was in for years. And they started it and they did it every week, come together. They were so proud of this in the Obama administration. Can you believe this? Proud of this and talked about it. Okay. And during President Obama's reign, we don't know if it still exists. No one really knows if it still exists. If indeed President Trump has that, I would seriously doubt that, but it could be true still. And if that exists, that needs to be investigated. That should not be done to anyone. And I'm sure that the deep state, meaning the Democrats, Obamas, Clintons, Bushes, I don't know, whoever, have encouraged this behavior because they have wanted many people to disappear, to commit suicide or die. And if you're around the Clintons, you notice that that happens quite a bit. Not saying anybody did it, but I am saying there's an awful lot of stuff out there for your own reading that has been brought to light. That is truth. You can look it up in many papers that were filed by the FBI, CIA, the government, etc., that show that this behavior was occurring. Okay. John Solomon says nobody dropped more bombs than Obama. They always insult President Trump, but Obama dropped over 20,000 bombs while he was president. We have no right to, in any way, yell at President Trump for a war that has lasted 6 weeks when they, indeed, the Democrats, have screwed up so many wars, including the Afghanistan debacle. We know that a bunch of material, we know that a bunch of planes, tanks, etc., were left in Afghanistan with our quick pullout. We know that many Afghanistanian people died because they helped us and we did not bring them home. And I always wondered, my husband and I both, why would they leave that there, right? ISIS is there. Why would they leave that there? Well, guess what? Now it makes sense, folks. ISIS was getting those things just like they were leaving them, in other places. Biden left it there on purpose, just like Obama was doing, so that ISIS could obtain it and use it against the United States in the future, and whoever they chose to use it against that was left in Afghanistan and overseas. Kind of all comes around in a circle. All right. Now, just to finish a little bit with Barack Obama, his real dad, they said, was from Kenya. Well, no one believes that. Everyone believes that it was Frank Davis. Very strong activist, not a good person either. You can look up more on him. I didn't have time today in today's podcast. Maybe in the future I'll do that for you. But they think it was Frank Davis. Please look it up. See what you believe. Write me a note. Let me know what you folks believe about this. Is it Frank Davis? And is Barack Obama a U.S. citizen? Because they're proclaiming that he's not. The CIA and the FBI now. Okay, that he's Indonesian, as a matter of fact. The relationship between Clinton Foundation and Obama, it's ridiculous, okay? They are investigating the Clintons because they were using the Clinton Foundation as a personal piggy bank for the Clintons. They had even family working for them, the daughter, etc. And this is the bad thing. When they had this, they were getting big donations. And then the big donations were allowing whoever donated them to have big favors done. The grand jury is working on that now to indict, in fact, Hillary Clinton and President Clinton. And I hope that they are able to do so. Obama's Attorney General, Sally Yates, told FBI, who were investigating corruption at the Clinton Foundation in a massive pay-to-play politics scheme, which gave money from the foreign entities to the Clinton Foundation, that it needed shut down and that it was shut down. Okay? She lied. She said it was shut down. She told the investigation that they were performing on the Clintons. She told them to stop. These agents in 16 and 17 who knew about this indeed have great evidence and were going to different attorneys' offices. Now get a load of this. These agents who had obtained all this information about the Clinton Foundation and what was going on with Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, what was going on overseas, they were going to offices of attorneys in New York, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, in Washington, LA, and Little Rock. And that's the ones we know about. And if they, when they went to the prosecutors and talked to them and asked them for help, right? Asked them for help to prosecute the Clinton Foundation, the Clintons and Obama. They said that they were not going to help anything. With anything. They said that they would not bring together grand juries and they would not be putting out any kind of subpoenas. So in other words, it was a complete protection racket around Hillary Clinton and Obama. As she was running for president, Barack Obama was protecting her. They came up with the Russia collusion. And what that was, it was supposed to take away from the investigation into Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, which was leading back to Obama, and to put the spotlight on President Trump. Now, there are papers from that were just given to the DOJ and the FBI. They were given from Tulsi Gabbard to the FBI just 2 weeks ago, which explains the whole Russia collusion. And if you've watched back on podcasts that I've had, I explained the Russian collusion, but I am going to explain it again in another podcast soon. So anyway, it was taken from how do I say this? It was taken away from the Clintons. They didn't want us looking at the Clintons. They wanted that investigation to stop, to be put on President Trump so that they could continue to do what they were doing and stop Trump from winning the 2020 election, which is a whole nother gamut of problems that they ran into, which President Trump knew about, has investigated, and they're getting in trouble for that too. And Maduro is going to be probably testifying on that. Big stuff there too, folks, and I will bring that to you. But just so you know, they wanted the eyes taken off of Hillary, put on President Trump, and they literally came up with the Russia collusion with about 5 people in a room at Trump Tower, and that's the truth. There are papers out there. I encourage you to go and read them. Some of them I know have been listed already for the public to read, and you would really understand a lot more. So, moving on, because the Justice Department was so corrupted, they went to Andy McCabe, deputy director, and found out nothing else would be done and that they were all on the fix. So, long story, they went after Trump and left Hillary alone. Now, Rico charges are coming back at Hillary for all the money that has been stolen, all the lives that she has taken in Benghazi, etc. And I hope they nail her. I do. The Clinton Foundation was a personal piggy bank, like I said. They got favors to do favors. And the only thing that we know now that we didn't know then, okay, is that there are confidential human informants, public corruption of the JOD, that there was a pay to play that was going on. Okay. We don't know how much. We don't know any more about that. What we do know about it from other reporting is basically what I've already told you. We're waiting for more to come out on the pay to play to see exactly how Hillary and Bill, put those through their offices. I'm sure somehow their daughter was involved. I don't know that for a fact, but I do believe that that's probably how some of it happened. And then we know that from informants, there was an Iranian informant from 2018 that John Solomon talked to. So that's the allegations that were previously put up. All right. What we know now is why nothing became of anything with the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation. That's all because of what I just told you in a nutshell. This is because political appointment, top leadership of the Justice Department and the FBI put the stop on it. They absolutely refused to go in and investigate it. At the same time, they're investigating the fake Russia scandal on Donald Trump, and they're suppressing a true investigation against Hillary Clinton. Now that is the biggest bunch of crap that I've ever heard, and they better stop, because we, the American people, are on to the DOJ. We are on to the FBI, the CIA, all of them, all the way up. We want to clean America out and clean America up, folks. We've got to get involved, and we've got to know about what's going on and not hide our heads. Okay. Last thing I want to say really quick before I close is that I'm going to bring up some things really quick about California. Please, if you're from California, if you're having trouble with lawyers out there, you've put in lawsuits against people and the lawyers have taken your money and they've not helped you. I mean, literally not helped you, not do up the papers or anything. They now have a program called ProtectCaliforniaScammers.com. It protects you against these lawyers, etc., and you can file claims. Please check into that. It's called ProtectCaliforniaScammers.com. I also encourage you, if you live in California, to please vote against the Nick Shirley Act. It's ridiculous. This young boy has tried and done nothing but helped the United States with everything that he's found. He and his young wife didn't have to do any of this, but he and his young wife stepped out with all the hatred, all the death threats, all the things that he's done to help America. Let's back him, folks. And you in California, I know you need help out there. Start with the Nick Shirley Act, please. The next thing I want to tell you about just really quick is, of course, Newsom's running for governor. Thinking about running for governor anyway. We need to get him out of there. Swalwell, you need to go down. The freedom fighters, I'm telling you, we all are just waiting for the moment where we can send stuff to tell the Department of Justice and the United States Senate what a piece of crap you are. And I'm happy that you left there, because if you didn't, America was about to come unglued. Next, Karen Bass is leading for mayor again. Come on, California, get it together. She has been with Newsom ruining your country, your beautiful country out there in California. Okay. Ruining your state. Get on it. Get smart. I don't care if you don't like Republicans. They can't do any worse than what these people have done. And you folks are in critical condition out there. Critical condition. Please don't vote Karen Bass in. Please. And the last thing I want to tell you about is Indiana, my state. Blake Fichter is running against Travis Holdman. Travis Holdman's a rhino in the Republican Party. He needs to be voted out. If you're from Indiana, I encourage you to vote for Blake Fichter. He has the president's endorsement. I know Blake personally. He is a very good man, a very good father. He will be a wonderful leader, and he cares about America. Folks, this is Chuck and Joe and the Freedom Fighters. We're asking you to step in, to learn about what's going on in this country, and to support the right people. Whatever party you believe that is, support the right people, not the people in the deep state that are trying to take America down. This is our country. Let's fight to get it back. Our forefathers fought all those years ago for this beautiful country. 250 years, guys, this year. Please vote, 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 and know why you're voting for who you're voting for. This is Chuck and Joe and the Freedom Fighters Podcast. I'll see you at the end of the week. Have a great evening and keep fighting, folks. America's worth it. Thank you.